Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to paint the February page in our 2025 calendar. I did see on Amazon today there were more of these in stock. If not, you can get another one of the calendars, watercolor paper calendars out there. I know Gravy makes one that's 100% cotton like this Lightwish one, but I am using the Lightwish one. I had seen this reference photo from the Art Challenge, the Botanica Collective on Instagram, and I thought this would be kind of a fun inspiration to go by. Not going to do it exactly just like this because this is a long, skinny landscape orientation and this is a portrait orientation, but we can get some ideas from there. And I am just going to take out the next sheet. And what I'm doing is I just put the pages I'm not using yet. I'm keeping them in a baggie so that they don't get dirty before I get a chance to use them, rather than keeping them on the the calendar holder. Now, just to show you what the January one looked like, there's a tutorial for this on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out. So I had a great idea that, well, I thought it was a great idea until I looked deeper into the calendar, was that I was going to take the quote from the artist. Like, this one has a Da Vinci one and a Degas one, and I'm like, oh, let's be inspired by Degas and paint ballerinas. But then this month doesn't have an artist quote. It's got a quote from a philosopher and I don't know what we want to call him, like a evangelist slash abolitionist slash women's suffragist, Henry Ward Beecher. And there's also the Simonides, a quote by them too. But the quotes are, every artist dips his brush in his own soul and paints his own nature into his pictures. And that was by Henry Ward Beecher. The other quote is, painting is silent poetry and poetry is a speaking picture, by Simonides. Oh my gosh, I know. There's probably everyone's going to be upset with that pronunciation. Anyway, so I thought, well, okay, nature, let's do some flowers. So I'm going to start by wetting the back of my paper. And this is going to prevent it from warping, and I'm working on a self-healing cutting mat here, but this is a cutting mat that I don't actually cut on because I don't want to have scrapes and scratches on it for when I'm doing artwork over it. I do have another cutting mat that is complete, chaos that I've totally cut on. And I'm going to go ahead and wet the front, and that's going to even out the tension. And we're going to start this painting wet in wet here. You can actually lift it up and position it just the way you want it. This may seem like chaos, and well, I'm kind of a chaotic person, I guess. All right. So whatever, you can just use a spray bottle as well. I like to at least brush it out, even if I do use a spray bottle, because that'll help it not have like puddles and stuff. So I'm going to start off by putting in some. Let's see, I think I want some background colors. I think I'm going to mix a little bit of, and these are the tonic watercolors by St. Louis Art Supply. These are great, these big pans of color, but I don't think they have the big pans. I think they're sold out at the moment, but they are offering half pans of their sets, but these big pans were such a great value. I'm adding a little bit of sap green to my phthalo blue. The sap green's actually by Renaissance. I'm just going to throw that in here and there. This is going to be a loose painting. There will be a decent amount of shifting from wet to dry because this is such a wet paper. Now I want to figure out where I want my colors, where I want my flowers. I think I'm going to go with a golden Taklon brush rather than a faux squirrel brush. And these brushes are from my collection through Craft Ammo. I'll put a link in the video description. I think there's still some in stock. I'm going to take some of this magenta, and I'm going to take some of the scarlet color here. And this is these 6 colors here are from their core mixing set. Oh, I just realized these are poppies. No wonder I liked it. I liked it so much. I thought this will be really, I don't know, kind of good for Valentine's Day to have the teal and the red, and I just thought it would be kind of fun. I just like the way those colors are moving, don't you? I love to have different little ceramics. Now this is a tin that I saved from a Jane Davenport product. It was so pretty. And I haven't had a chance to spray paint the inside, but this little dish that I picked up at the Dollar Tree a few years ago, that's such a great little palette. You can find stuff like that at thrift stores. Just keep your eyes open, and you can often find neat little things like that. I just like those paints. I know they were having some trouble, or at least I heard they were having some trouble sourcing more of the pans, those big ceramic pans, but I hope that they come back out with them, because these big pans, the set of 6 was $95, but they had individuals for between $15 and $18 depending on the color, but there's 7 half pans of paint in there, and a half pan is around $7. So I mean, like, you are getting, like, for the price of 2 half pans, you're getting a huge collection of a huge amount of color, and I really like that. So at this stage here where I am doing a lot of wet into wet, I'm not doing really detailed stuff. I'm doing the stuff that I want to kind of blend. I'm going to grab a little bit of this warm yellow here. I'm going to add it to the center of these. Now, the less water I have on my brush, the more control I'm going to have. Yeah, that's kind of pretty. And then there is some dark around the centers. So to make a nice dark, I think I'm going to do, I can do that. I could do the phthalo blue and the scarlet, and I can add a little yellow into it if I need to. That should make a pretty good dark. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to try not to add too much water to it. So that makes a pretty good dark just on its own. Makes a nice dark gray. And it'll be less muddy if I don't add, if I don't put too much to it. So my brush is quite dry. And I'm just going to I'm starting not quite out as far as I want it, and then I'm working in a little bit. I'm going to get some nice texture in there. And again, I'm just going on an impression and a feel and the vibe that I want to get from this piece. And if this ends up being really just beautiful abstract colors, I am okay with that. There's something about just putting in beautiful colors on high quality paper that is nice, right? I could leave it like this and I still think that's quite lovely. All right, I do want to do some greenery. There's not a lot of greenery in this piece, but I'm going to go ahead and take some of this warm yellow and add it to that blue-green mix. And since the paper's still pretty wet, I think I'll start in with some leaves. You know, I think I have my paint a little bit too wet here. It's going to be really bleedy, so I'll just get a little bit of color in there, and then I'll make a thicker mix. Okay, so I'm going to make a thicker mix by taking my brush, cleaning it, and blotting it off. And the reason I'm going to mix with this one is because this is a very durable brush versus mixing with, like, say, the liner that I'm going to use in a minute, because that's a really floppy brush. It's more likely to be damaged if I mess around with it too much. So what I want to do is I want to get a bunch of this warm yellow. See how it's very pasty? And I'm just going to put that right there in the edge of that. Then I'm going to come right over here, trying to add extra water and get some of that blue. There. I've got a really thick mix there. And actually, I might just be able to use this. I don't think I need to use a liner. And I'm going to put in some stems. Now, I'm okay with them being fuzzy because poppy stems do have a kind of a fuzziness to them. In fact, I think I'm going to put some buds in here. I don't really see any buds on the reference itself, but I have painted so many poppies in my day that I know I can put buds in there and they'll be they'll work. Oh, I think that's so cute. Oh, I'm just loving this. 10 minutes. 10 minutes in, you know? We could stop anytime. We could stop anytime we want. We're not addicted to painting. We could stop anytime we want. I love poppy buds because they remind me of like little snakes. I have a black thumb. I can't seem to grow anything, and it's probably just because I live in a very woody shaded area. But I love to paint. I love to paint flowers. Probably because I have a hard time growing them. But then again, my sister has a green thumb and can grow anything, anywhere. My grandmother did too. She'd have like little like butter tubs with tomatoes growing in them in February on her porch. Yeah, so in her enclosed porch in Maine. So yeah, I guess those genes skipped me. But I love how we're getting this kind of fuzzy. Okay, so where was I? We were making little buds there. Let's do, there are some cute little purple flowers. Let's do that. We can mix our purple. Take a little bit of, let's keep using the phthalo blue since that's what we've been using. And let's take some magenta. That makes a really nice purple. Since I haven't used the ultramarine yet, I think I'll just kind of, oh, and look at that. We're already starting to, the paper's already drying and up enough that we're getting some crisper lines. That didn't take very long. I'm just putting in kind of nondescript little purple flowers. I need to learn how to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I had dropped my old phone. I was on the elliptical machine the other day. And let me tell you, nothing good comes out exercising right. Just kidding. I dropped my my phone on the cement floor. And I've dropped that phone a lot, but just never on the cement floor before. And that was the end of that. It cracked, and there was like glass slivers everywhere. I had to put packing tape on it to use the phone until my replacement came. It was not good. I was actually due for a new one, but like last year. But I was like, yeah, I don't want to make more waste. I'm just gonna keep with this one. It's fine. I didn't want to bother transferring over, or didn't want to bother with a new phone. And I'm glad I waited, because I would have been bummed if I had dropped a new phone on the floor. That one was a couple of years old, so it was about time for a replacement anyway, because like it wasn't, like some of the apps were working kind of weirdly. So I know you're like, I'm here for a painting tutorial, Lindsay. I don't need the life story about your phone. Fair enough. And I'm gonna put some little I think I'll just do just some easy little leaves there. Oh, this is sweet. I think this is just the sweetest thing. Maybe just a little leaf. You can't really see many leaves in this reference photo, so I'm just kind of like decorating it the way I think it will look nice. And when you use a limited palette, everything will work. Everything will work together. And I think that a lot of times we think you need to have every color because maybe you don't feel like you're comfortable mixing your colors. But I'm telling you, it's going to look better the fewer colors that you use in a lot of cases. All right. Oh, I think that looks really, really nice. Okay, so now we can add some layers onto the flowers themselves. I'm going to stick with this brush. Again, number 8 round golden Taklon. If you don't have my brushes, it's totally fine. Just get a number 8, a nice pointed number 8 round. You want a good pointed brush because you can do details with a tip, but then you can also carry a good amount of water. It doesn't carry as much water as, say, a synthetic squirrel. Now, I use synthetic watercolor brushes just because I want to make sure that no animals are harmed in making my brushes, because generally with like your watercolor brushes, they do farm the animals for them, or they farm them for mink coats, and then they use the leftovers for brushes. Whereas like hog brushes, those are generally, and goat brushes, those can be harvested, like the goat brush is going to be harvested without killing the goat, but like hog brushes and stuff, generally a byproduct from the meat industry, so they would just be not used otherwise. So anyway, obviously I just try to tread as lightly as I can on the environment. I'm not perfect, nobody's perfect, we all consume, right? But I just want to give you a little bit of a reasoning. Okay, so now as I go through, and I'm gonna just kind of try to pick apart some of my petals here. A lot of times I'll just kind of look for where I'm seeing little ruffles or ridges, and just add little bits of detail. Less is more, because your brain will fill in the rest. If you don't have exactly the every little detail picked out and put in, your brain will fill it out, will finish it. And I think what I really like about the calendar project here is that people are busy. People are so busy, and sometimes it's hard to find that little bit of time to paint. And if you can, you know, be like, okay, I'm just going to do this calendar page, and even if I don't like it, I only have to live with it for about a month, and then I'll be on to the next thing, and it'll be time for a new one. So, you know, if you can make it so it's not really a big deal if it doesn't come out exactly the way you want it, I think it can be kind of freeing. And you're probably like, "Ooh, what are you doing, Lindsay, here? This looks kind of messy." I'm just looking for like blossoms and shapes, ways where I can kind of pull out like a flower from the chaos. This one's pretty good here. This one has, see, we got dark areas, light areas, dark areas. So I can kind of go through and say, all right, let's say this is the curled over petal, and I'll go in and I'll put in, oh, I'm trying to move my hand back so it doesn't get in the way. I'll pull in some dark there. And then I'll say this is like the ruffly edge of that kind of curled over petal. Like it's, oh, we got another one right here. So I'm going to paint in that kind of shadowy area. And then I'll just kind of sketch around these lighter areas and just kind of fill in some of the dark. But depending on where your petals like left blooms or different shapes, you'll have different, you know, shapes to work with, which is kind of fun, I think. And remember, you don't have to put all the details in. When in doubt, leave it out, because our brains will fill in the blanks. And it may be painful. You may be like, oh, I cannot leave it like this. This does not look good. You come back after lunch, or after you go have a cup of tea or walk the dog, or whatever you like to do when you take a little break from your painting. Maybe you have to go to work and you come home at the end of the day and you look, and it's like, oh, actually, this looks pretty good, you know? It's because you gave your brain a chance to take a little break from it. And I think I will bring this red. I'm going to bring the red right over my dark area, and I'll go back in with some of the dark later, I think, on that one. Because I know it can look a little bit chaotic. You could, if it's too dark, go in with a clean brush. You can spread some of the color around a bit. If it seems like a little bit too harsh, take a clean brush, touch the edge of it, and drag it elsewhere. Okay, that's a lot of color there. I think I'll bring some of that over here. I kind of like it. Before you get too fussy with it, just move on to another flower though, because you may find that when you come back to it, it actually looks pretty good. Like this, I don't like these two hard edges next to each other so much, so I'm going to soften one edge. Same there. And that's probably going to ruffle a little bit, and that'll give us a pretty shape too, I think. I'm going to go up here, do about the same thing. Oops, I have way too much paint. We have some pale and midtones in there from the wet into wet, so we don't need to do a ton really. Just add a little bit of definition. Okay. Now, I'm going to look at the reference photo and see, is there anything else from this reference photo that I want to add? Now, if I zoom in, I can see there's some little cherries or something. I don't know if I want that. There's some pretty little violets. I do like those, but I feel like I have, you know, I got those, I decided to put those little purple flowers in, and I feel like I'm kind of running out of space. I think I'm going to go, I think I'll just spend a little bit more time maybe on the centers of the flowers. And I think, like, you can even just dry brush in some color. I do want some more yellow. I like that. I like that. I'm going to take a little bit more of that mixed dark color where I'm just going to go ahead and clean off my blue and try to just clean off my red too. Might as well. Let's use everything up. I might need a little bit more red actually. Maybe I'll put a little bit of that lighter color in there. I mean, like bluer color in there. That's too blue. Let's get some of this. I like it when the colors bleed a bit. I like the contrast. I like to see some colors kind of bleeding and then other colors crisp. I should say some shapes bleedy and some shapes to be crisp. I also think I want to do some maybe bold lines with a liner. So I'm going in with this little liner. Look at my water buckets. I got one is perfectly clean, one is really murky because I always wash in the dirty water first and then I get fresh water from the clean bucket. Thought I'd just bring that up in case it's new to anybody. With a liner brush you do need thinner paint. And I like spatter. Obviously not everybody likes spatter, so do it if you want to do it. Don't do it if you don't want to do it. But I think I'll do some spatter in some yellow, and I'm going to use, actually, you know what? The magenta would be pretty to spatter, so let me clear up a little bit of space here in my palette. but also what would be pretty would be a little bit of that teal color. So where you have that green, adding a little bit of phthalo blue to it, that would be a really pretty spatter color too. Wouldn't it? Let's do that. So I think what I might do is actually, I don't know if I want to get on top of that area and it's still kind of wet. So I'm going to grab a couple little note papers. And just gently lay it down. That paper's not dry yet, so that's one of the reasons I really don't want to spatter on it. You can save like junk mail for this too. You don't have to. There. The rest of it, I think I'm all right if it gets spattered. Maybe I'll just cover a little bit of. I really like that little guy there. This is a masking technique. Very loose masking technique. All right, I think that's all right. All right, now and some people would say, that's just cheating. Why would you spatter? That's awful. Don't do it if you don't like it. That's all I'm going to say. I think I'll do a little bit of this nice bright yellow too. Oh, I'm using a wrong yellow. That's all right. I just realized. Remember I said what we haven't used that yellow yet, so. Making a mess. Okay, if you get spatter where you don't want it, all you have to do is blot it while it's still wet and it will lighten it right up. So over like the areas down here, I'm just going to lighten that up, and then I'm just going to carefully remove my masks. And I think that's really pretty, honestly. So what I'll do, I'm just gonna, oh, I forgot to remove that one. Let's see, that's not the brush I just used. Let's dry this brush off. If you've got too much somewhere and you want to go in and just kind of touch it with a dry brush, you can do that. Just kind of dry off your brush and just go set it in the puddle, and you can sop it up. If you've got some where like, oh, I didn't want that on that flower, then go right in with the paper towel or a rag and just press up and lift. Don't rub, because you'll smear it, and also you could damage the paper. Cotton paper doesn't damage as easy as other papers, but I just kind of go through like that. And if you want to add any other little touches to it, you certainly can do that as well. I think I'm going to let this dry, and then maybe I'll go in with a liner brush and some of that really dark color and add some more details around the center. Maybe I'll use a gel pen. Let me dry this off and see what I think. It dried pretty flat with my heat tool. I think that if I just let it air dry, it would have been completely flat, but it's not bad. You do need to flip it over, dry the back side, and kind of alternate back and forth if you're going to use a heat tool or a hair dryer to dry it to keep it from warping too badly. I honestly think you could leave it just like this. I did take a wet brush, and if you look like right there, and here, and did kind of drag some of the splashes around a bit. That might be a little too messy for some people, but that's something I did because I had some pretty concentrated blobs and I wanted them in different sizes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick up some of that dark color. I'm going to add a little bit more red to it. That kind of black color that we made. And I'm just going to add like a few individual little dots, maybe a few little lines here and there towards a perimeter of these darker areas, just to give it the appearance of detail. You don't need to have a lot of detail, you just need to put a few things in detail, and then it will look like everything is detailed. And having a little like black speckle kind of going over the edge, or maybe even a few little lines connecting them, can kind of show you the texture and the shape of these little I guess they're stamens, pistons. There. I think I'll also maybe go in with a little bit of red and magenta. And maybe just kind of hit a few edges. Some expressive marks just to kind of show like the definition of some of the petals, maybe some of the crinkles. And not a ton of stuff, just a little bit. And then if you want, you can do a few more grasses. We did add some of that brighter yellow, so that would be totally game to use now, since we did go in and add some of that when we speckled. I kind of like some scripty lines sometimes. But that's totally up to you. You know, you don't have to do that. You can also go in with a pen, like a fine liner if you want to. I think I might use a gel pen and just do a little bit of, you don't have to. I mean, I think this is really pretty as it is. I don't know what it is. I'm like, have a compulsion to use a gel pen sometimes. Probably because I lost a lot of the white, and I just feel like it brings it back in a bit. You could also use a little bit of colored pencil if you wanted to bring out highlights in it, but honestly, I think that as it is really pretty. And what a great way to, you know, celebrate February. A nice pop of color in the middle of winter if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. Nice Valentine-y colors, you know, if you celebrate Valentine's Day or if you like to decorate for Valentine's Day. Having this nice bright pinky red is just lovely, and yeah, that's a lot of fun. So if you want to play along, obviously you can work in a sketchbook or on your own watercolor paper. I will link to this calendar that I used in the video description because they're back in stock. I'll also link to the Gravy one, which is a little bit smaller and more of a square format for your painting area. I'll link to these watercolors, but I think these larger pans are sold out, but they're from St. Louis Art Supply, and you could get the half pans in they actually have a tin of 12 of the half pans now, so which is like kind of an essential set, which would be compact, and I think it would give you like a brown, probably would have those other colors in it. The additional colors I put in are from different brands, but yeah, these are really nice quality paints and quite affordable in my opinion, for the big pans anyway. I haven't really compared the half pans to other half pans because I generally will fill my own. But I want to thank you so much for painting along with me. I hope you are taking part in this year-long calendar painting challenge that I just kind of decided to do last month. And yeah, at the end of the year, we're gonna have 12 little paintings, and you can do that, right? Save a little time in your weekend maybe to do a little painting with me once a month, and before you know it, you'll have a nice little collection. And then you could maybe even bind it together and have a little book, or frame them. I mean, you could definitely frame that area, and that would be super sweet. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye!